Well, I have no message. I didn't know about it. So, it went up. I really have no message. Somebody slipped and missed a very small part. Now, by the way, again, it take off on, I guess I didn't do it, by the way. This was done by somebody else. This was a retruth. That was not done by us. The moment Trump made up his mind to go after Barack Obama with a direct personal attack, it wasn't random. It wasn't some off-the-cuff decision. It came at a time when Trump was backed into a corner, feeling the heat from every direction, and desperately searching for someone to point the finger at, someone big, someone the crowd would recognize, someone whose name alone would light a fire in the room. And who better than the man Trump had spent years trying to tear down? Barack Obama. Picture this, a packed hall, cameras rolling, the lights hitting the stage so bright you could feel the heat from the back row. Trump walked up to the podium like a man who had already won. That smirk, the one he wore like armor, was locked in place. He leaned into the microphone, adjusted it just slightly, and the room held its breath, because everyone in that building knew. When Trump grabbed the mic with that look on his face, something explosive was coming. And it did. He didn't ease into it. He didn't start with pleasantries or warm-up lines. He went straight for the throat. He ripped into Obamacare, calling it a disaster. He tore apart Obama's foreign policy, painting it as weak, soft, and embarrassing on the world stage. He waved off the admiration millions of people had for Obama as nothing more than a media trick, something cooked up by news anchors and talk show hosts. But what made the room shift, what made people actually sit up straighter in their chairs, was how personal he made it. This wasn't a debate about numbers and policy papers. This was a man trying to rip apart another man's entire legacy, piece by piece, in front of the whole world. Trump wanted war. He wanted chaos. He wanted every single camera in that room pointed at him while he burned down the image of the calmest president America had seen in decades. Since I graduated, crime rates, teenage pregnancy, share of Americans living in poverty, they're all down, have gone way up. Our life expectancy has as well. Blacks and Latinos have risen. He wanted Obama dragged back into his world, back into the mud, back into the arena where volume wins and the loudest voice takes the crown. And for a moment, just a moment, it looked like it was working. The crowd split right down the middle. Half the room erupted, fists pumping, cheering like their team had just scored the winning goal. But the other half? They sat quiet, uncomfortable. You could see it in their faces. The surprise, the unease, the question hanging in the air. Did he really just go that far? Reporters in the press section were already typing before Trump finished his sentence. They knew exactly what this was, a headline machine, a soundbite factory, and Trump fed off every second of it. He paced the stage with that wide, confident stride, soaking in the noise like oxygen. His shoulders rolled back, his chin tilted up. Every move screamed, "I own this room." But here's where the story takes a turn that nobody, not Trump, not the crowd, not even the cameras, saw coming. Obama didn't respond. Not right away. Not with a shout. Not with a tweet. Not with a single word. The cameras swung toward him, hungry for a reaction, and what they found was nothing. A face made of stone, calm, still, completely, almost eerily, unreadable. His hands rested in front of him, relaxed. His posture didn't shift an inch. He just sat there, watching, listening, letting every single one of Trump's words hang in the air like smoke after a fire. And that silence changed the entire game. We can't afford a commander-in-chief who insults PS. I want you to pay attention because if we don't, if we lose focus, we could have problems. This is part of what's happened here during this election season, and we just get stirred up for all kinds of reasons that are unnecessary. See, Trump was built for noise. He lived in noise. He thrived when people shouted back because then he could shout louder. His whole strategy, his whole career, was based on getting a reaction and then bulldozing over it. But when there was no reaction, when the other side just sat there, calm as a lake at dawn, that's when Trump's playbook started falling apart. Every second that passed without a response from Obama made the room heavier. The cheers from Trump's side started to lose their energy. The laughter faded. People began looking around, confused, waiting. Because when one man is screaming into a void and the void doesn't flinch, suddenly the screaming doesn't look strong anymore. It looks desperate. And people noticed. Oh, they noticed. Political commentators who had been watching from the sides started whispering to each other. Social media began to hum. The word restraint kept popping up. Obama wasn't running. He wasn't hiding. He was doing something far more dangerous. He was waiting. Trump tried to push harder. He repeated his attacks, louder this time, sharper, as if turning up the volume on a broken speaker would somehow fix the message. He threw jab after jab after jab, hoping, praying that one of them would crack Obama's wall. But the wall didn't crack. It didn't even tremble. Obama sat so still, he might as well have been carved from marble. And that stillness, that impossible, infuriating stillness, became the loudest thing in the room. But what nobody was prepared for, what turned this clash from a political argument into something people would talk about for years, was what happened next. Obama spoke. When he finally opened his mouth, the room went so quiet, you could hear the hum of the stage lights. He didn't shout. He didn't stand up and point fingers. He started talking like he was having a conversation over coffee. Low, easy, almost casual. But every single word landed like a stone dropped into still water. You could feel the ripples spreading through the crowd. He didn't match Trump's fire. That was the first thing people noticed. Where Trump had been a wildfire, burning fast, burning hot, burning everything. Obama was a surgeon, precise, deliberate, cutting exactly where it mattered most. He didn't waste a single breath on insults. Instead, he looked out at the audience and asked a simple question. How much time had Trump spent attacking, and how much time had he spent actually building anything? The room felt that one. Then, without raising his voice even a fraction, Obama started listing. Healthcare coverage expanded to millions. An economy pulled back from the edge of collapse. International relationships rebuilt after years of damage. He didn't brag. He didn't beat his chest. He just laid the facts on the table, one after another, like cards in a hand that was impossible to beat. But here's the part that really got the crowd. The part that made even the people who came to cheer for Trump pause and listen. Obama made a joke. Light, simple, almost throwaway. He said something about how, after all these years, Trump still couldn't stop talking about him. The delivery was so smooth, so effortless, that the laughter came before people even realized they were laughing. It wasn't mean. It wasn't cruel. It was just true. And because it was true, it hit 10 times harder than any insult could have. That was the moment the tide turned. Right there. You could feel it in the air. Like the temperature in the room dropped 5 degrees. Trump had walked in planning to dominate. He had his lines. He had his energy. He had his crowd, but Obama answered with something Trump didn't know how to fight. Substance. Quiet, devastating, undeniable substance. Each point Obama made was a brick, and by the time he was done talking, he had built a wall so high that Trump's accusations couldn't climb over it. Those big, sweeping claims that had sounded so powerful 10 minutes earlier, now they sounded hollow, empty, like shouting into a canyon and hearing nothing come back. As Obama continued, something remarkable happened in the room. The cheers that had been fueling Trump, that roaring wave of noise from his side, started to fade. Not all at once. Slowly, like a fire running out of wood. People who had been on their feet sat back down. People who had been clapping stopped. And the people who had been sitting in uneasy silence, they started leaning forward, listening harder, nodding. Trump, for maybe the first time in a public moment like this, looked unsure. His usual move, the interruption, the hand wave, the bulldozer response, didn't come. He stood there, shifting his weight from one foot to the other, and for a few painful seconds, the man who had made his entire name on never being speechless had nothing to say. And that silence, Trump's silence, was the loudest thing anyone heard all night. That was the brilliance of what Obama did. He didn't try to outshout the storm. He let the storm blow itself out. He waited until the wind died down, and then he spoke into the quiet with a voice so steady it felt like gravity. He didn't overpower Trump. He reflected him. He took Trump's own aggression and turned it into a mirror. And what that mirror showed wasn't strength. It was insecurity. Without raising his voice a single notch, Obama took the moment and made it his own. The clash became something bigger than two men trading words on a stage. It became a study. A lesson that people would replay in their minds long after the cameras shut off. Trump stood for one kind of power, the kind that grabs you by the collar, shakes you, demands your attention through sheer force. Obama stood for another kind entirely, the kind that sits still, waits, and draws you in until you can't look away. One forced attention, the other commanded it. And in that difference, in that gap between forcing and commanding, the audience saw something they wouldn't forget. The thing people talked about most, long after the lights went down and the stage was cleared, was the silence at the end. After Obama finished speaking, Trump, the man who always had a comeback, always had a line, always had the last word, stood still. The loudest voice in American politics had gone quiet. And in that quiet, in that rare and stunning moment of nothing, the whole room understood. Sometimes the most powerful thing a person can say is the thing they don't say at all. When the dust finally settled and the crowd filtered out into the night air, what stayed wasn't the policies, it wasn't the insults, it wasn't even the jokes. What stayed was the image of two men, side by side, showing two completely different ways to carry power. Trump had come swinging with everything he had: fire, fury, and force. Obama had answered with patience, timing, and a clapback so calm it cut deeper than any shout ever could. If that moment left you thinking, hit subscribe. Turn on notifications, drop a comment below and tell us, who do you think walked away with the win that night? Because these stories, they're not just drama, they're how power really works. And we've got plenty more where this came from. Stay tuned, because the next one might be even bigger.